Have you ever felt invisible in a room full of people? Like your body was there, nodding and smiling, but your soul had quietly slipped out the back door, searching for some place quieter? Maybe you didn't even notice it at first, because noise doesn't always sound like chaos. Sometimes it sounds like small talk, like pressure to belong, like 1,000 tiny expectations pressing against your chest until breathing feels like performance. They tell you to speak up, to get out there, to join the noise, as if the louder you are, the more real you'll become. But what if the opposite is true? What if the ones who stay silent are the ones who have the most to say? There are people who don't just enjoy quiet, they survive by it. Not because they are broken, not because they are shy, but because the noise of the world buries something sacred inside them, something that only silence can reveal. They move through the day like tuning forks, feeling everything, absorbing everything, a smile that wasn't real, a conversation dripping with unseen tension, the loneliness humming beneath someone's laughter. They carry it all until it becomes too much, and then without apology, they vanish. But here's the truth most people never see. They don't disappear to abandon the world. They disappear to return to themselves, because some souls were not made for constant exposure. They were made for depth, and depth demands silence. If you've ever felt this pull, this aching need to step back, to shrink the noise until you can hear your own heartbeat again, you're not alone, you're not wrong, you're not broken, you're just one of the rare ones still searching for the places where your soul can breathe. It doesn't happen all at once. It starts with a subtle ache, an invisible crack under the surface. Not a scream for help, just a whisper. It's time. And so you leave. Not in anger, not in sorrow, but in quiet necessity. Maybe you cancel plans with no excuse. Maybe you put your phone on silent and let the messages pile up like leaves you'll deal with later. Maybe you walk slower, speak softer, hope no one notices the retreat already beginning inside you. You're not running from life, you're walking back to it, because somewhere along the way life became a performance and you forgot the sound of your own voice when no one else was listening. So you vanish, not loudly, not tragically, like mist slipping from a field at sunrise, there and then, gone. In the solitude, a different kind of work begins. The kind no one applauds, the kind no one sees. You start collecting the pieces scattered by the world's demands, the emotions you absorb but never voiced, the dreams you shelved to be practical, the questions you abandoned because the answers scared you. And in the quiet, you stitch them back together. This is not rest, it's resurrection. Because INFJs don't simply recharge like batteries, they dissolve. They shed the costume stitched together by expectation, and in the nakedness of solitude they remember who they were before the world told them who to be. Most people think solitude is empty, but it isn't. It's full, achingly full, of memory, of emotion, of truth waiting to be heard without interruption. It's not always beautiful. Sometimes it's brutal, because silence has no mercy. It reflects back everything you've been too busy or too afraid to face, but that's why it matters. There's a study few people know about. When researchers asked people to sit alone in silence for just 15 minutes, many chose to shock themselves with painful electric jolts rather than face their own thoughts. Think about that, 15 minutes. And yet, here you are, choosing hours, days, sometimes weeks of solitude, not because it's comfortable, but because it's necessary, because you know what most people never understand. True healing doesn't come from escaping the world, it comes from daring to meet yourself inside the silence it leaves behind. There's a reason so many people run from silence. Because when the noise stops, something else starts. Not peace, not calm, but everything you've been trying not to feel. In the silence, there's no audience to impress, no conversation to hide behind, no smile to wear like armor. There's just you. unfiltered, unmasked, unavoidable, and for some that's terrifying. But not for everyone. There are those who step into the stillness and make a home inside it, who don't just tolerate their own company, they explore it. INFJs don't retreat into silence to disappear. They retreat to confront, to listen, to repair what the noise has broken. It's there in the folds of solitude that they hear the voice the world drowns out, the one whispering truths too fragile for crowds. You see, solitude doesn't hand out easy answers. It hands you a mirror, and sometimes what you see there isn't pretty. The anger you swallowed to keep the peace, the compromises you made to be accepted, the dreams you abandoned because no one else believed in them, it all rises up in the quiet, asking, what now? There's a story you won't find in textbooks. In 1978, a man named Teching Xie built a cage the size of a small room. He locked himself inside for a year. No speaking, no reading, no writing, just the slow, relentless passage of time. Most people couldn't imagine lasting a day. He endured 12 months. And when he finally emerged, he didn't offer an explanation because the kind of transformation that happens in silence can't be translated back into words. It's carved into the soul itself. Maybe you haven't built a cage. Maybe your solitude looks like quiet mornings and unanswered messages. But the principle is the same. You are not wasting time when you step back. You're not falling behind when you go still. You are doing the most courageous thing a person can do in a world addicted to distraction. You are choosing to feel, to face, to become, and that choice changes everything. Because once you have sat in silence and survived what rose to meet you, you carry a strength no noise can drown. But silence, for all its beauty, doesn't last forever. At some point, the world calls you back. The texts pile up, the invitations arrive, the obligations you set down quietly tap at your door like rain against glass. And you know it's time to return, to show up again, to wear a face the world recognizes, but something inside you has shifted. You don't re-enter the same. You move slower because you see more. You speak less because you feel deeper. You give more carefully because you've learned the cost of pouring from an empty cup. And not everyone will understand. Some will call you distant. Some will wonder where the old you went. Some will mistake your calm for coldness. But that's not your burden to carry anymore. The truth is, once you have tasted your own depth, surface living will never satisfy you again. There's another story most people have never heard. A man named Bob Cull once spent an entire year alone in the wilds of Patagonia. No visitors, no distractions, just the relentless voice of nature and his own. He thought he would find enlightenment. He found something harder and more precious. He found the raw, jagged terrain of his own mind, the illusions he clung to, the pain he still carried, the grace he had yet to claim. And when he returned, the world hadn't changed, but he had. That's the unspoken cost of solitude. It reshapes you in ways that don't always fit back into the life you left behind. You start noticing things others rush past. You start craving conversations with substance instead of noise. You start choosing yourself, even when it's uncomfortable. And sometimes that makes you a stranger in places where you once belonged. Here's the paradox no one warns you about. Solitude strengthens you, but it can also set you apart. It teaches you to carry your own weight. But it also teaches you to recognize when others won't carry theirs. It reminds you how little you actually need and how precious true connection becomes. So when you return to the world, you carry a quiet defiance, not loud, not arrogant, but unmistakable, a refusal to betray the person you fought so hard to find inside the silence. And that refusal, that choice to stay rooted even as the world sways and shouts around you, well, that's what makes you different, and that's what makes you strong. Not because you conquered the world, but because you conquered the one enemy most people run from every day, themselves. Strength has a funny way of hiding itself. You won't always find it in the ones who speak the loudest or stand the tallest. Sometimes you'll find it in the one sitting quietly in the corner, the one who isn't trying to impress you, because they've already wrestled with far greater battles than anyone can see. Stillness isn't weakness, stillness is war, and not everyone survives it. In a world addicted to validation, silence is a rebellion. Choosing to be still when everyone else is shouting, that's not easy. It's an act of defiance against a system that measures your worth in visibility and noise. There's a cost to this choice, and INFJs know it better than most, because stillness doesn't just reveal the beauty inside you. It also reveals the wreckage you thought you buried, the memories you'd rather forget, the anger you swallowed to keep the peace, the dreams you tucked away to survive. In solitude, there's nowhere to hide from it. And that's the danger most people never speak of. Solitude will either heal you or haunt you, depending on how willing you are to sit through the discomfort, depending on how brave you are to face the ghosts when they come knocking. There's a quote by Octavio Paz. Solitude is the profoundest fact of the human condition. Man is the only being who knows he is alone and the only one who seeks out another. It sounds bleak at first, but it's not. Because knowing you are alone, it means you also know how precious it is when you choose someone, when you choose to connect, not out of loneliness, but out of wholeness. Stillness teaches you that. It teaches you that you are not your performance. You are not your popularity. You are not your applause. You are the quiet space behind all of it, the space that remains even when the clapping stops. Maybe no one else will ever see how much you carry inside you. Maybe no one else will ever know the battles you fought in the dark, but you will know, and sometimes that's enough. Because real strength isn't about being seen. It's about standing alone when no one's watching and refusing to abandon yourself. And in a world that's constantly telling you to keep performing, that is a revolution. At some point, the journey circles back. The noise returns, the invitations pile up, the world demands your attention again, but something has changed. Something unshakable, something silent but seismic, because you no longer move through life the way you used to. You no longer say yes to every demand just to feel needed. You no longer abandon your own voice just to keep the peace. You've touched something deeper now, and you're not willing to trade it for approval anymore. That's the quiet power no one sees. The way you set boundaries without anger, the way you say no without guilt, the way you walk away without explanation, because you don't owe anyone an apology for choosing yourself. The world may still pull at you, still try to drag you back into its noise. But once you've rebuilt yourself in silence, you don't unlearn that song. You recognize the noise for what it is now, just noise. It no longer defines you, it no longer directs you. You choose what to let in, you choose who to let close. There's a line from Rilke that whispers through moments like these. The only journey is the one within, and you've traveled it. You've crossed the unmarked roads inside yourself. You've stood barefoot in the storms no one else could see. You've learned to be your own home, and now you carry that home with you wherever you go. Maybe you're still misunderstood. Maybe you're still called distant or intense or too quiet for a world that worships volume, but you know better now. You know that silence isn't a weakness, it's a sanctuary, it's a source, it's a strength the noisy world will never understand. And somewhere out there, someone else is listening. Someone else is fighting to find their way back through the noise. Someone else needs to know it's okay to disappear for a while. So if these words reached you today, if something stirred awake inside you, don't keep it silent. Share it, not because you owe it to anyone, but because maybe, just maybe, your voice is the lifeline someone else has been waiting for.